So that was about the presentation styles. Windows can be presented in three different styles. One is, what is the first one? It is tiled presentation. Second one is overlapping presentation. Third one is cascading presentation. So basically, cascading Windows presentation will not be preferred. The users go for tiled Windows presentation, or they go for overlapping Windows presentation. The next topic we see here is types of windows. There are basically two different types of windows. One is primary window and one is secondary window. The primary window is the one where all the basic tasks or all the basic menu bars, controls will also display, whereas secondary window is the one which will be displayed on top of the primary window. So the type of window will depend on the nature and flow of the task. The type of window used, it will depend on the nature and flow of the task. Basically, there are two types. One is primary window and one is secondary window. So what is primary window? Primary window is whatever you are viewing now. Okay, this window we call it as primary window. Now you will be viewing a presentation, and this presentation, whatever you see on your screen now, this is a primary window. The secondary window is, say now, if I want to do any changes to the content that is present in this particular window, then what I do, I usually right click on that and I will do any changes which are necessary. So when I right click and if I select any of the choice, it will display one more window on this primary window. And that small window which will display on top of the primary window, we call that as secondary window. So what is the primary usage of this primary window is, if I want to control any of the tasks, okay, then I go for primary window. And if there are menu bars through which you need to perform the task, all the menu bars will be always displayed on the primary window. Menu bars is the basically when you want to perform any task, for example, cut and paste, or you have to exit, or you have to open a new file, all that menu bar details will be always present on the primary window. Okay. And what you shouldn't do, what should the primary window should not contain is, it's like, for example, you need to print that page. Whenever you give the print option, what are the printer options that is available? All that details will should always display on the secondary window. It should not display on the primary window. So primary window should not have sub options. Okay, so that should always display on the secondary window. So once you see this, every computer will be having one small My Computer application in your laptop. So when you consider this My Computer, whenever you click on that My Computer, it will open one main window. That main window, we always call it as a primary window. So whatever the diagram that you are seeing here, what are the details that it is displayed here, these are the main components of My Computer. So all these main components, what it is displaying, that will be displayed always on the primary window. Right? So this is one example where you can analyze what is primary window. Next comes, as I said, secondary windows. Secondary windows is whenever you want to perform the subordinates or sub options, whatever you need to do the changes with the sub options, then we go for the windows called secondary windows. Okay, or it will become a supplementary for the primary window, where secondary windows will not always be visible. It will be visible when the user needs to use it, or when occasionally there are some changes that we need to do with the components, then we go for the secondary windows. So secondary windows, as they have specified here, it should not be larger than 263 dialog units. it should be 263 into 263 dialog units. Dialog units means that will be basically displayed in the form of some pixels. Okay, that is not much necessary here. So you just know 263. We will call that as DLUs, dialog units. 263 into 263 dialog units. So this is one example of secondary window. Secondary window is this, which means, say for example, whenever you are using Microsoft Windows, and in Microsoft Windows, you will select one particular content and you will just right click on that. So whenever you do right click, there are many options which will be displayed here. In this options, once again, I go for any option which I select. So when I select that particular option, it will open one more window where I can change the font size, I can change the font color, I can either change the font, font properties, and I can also align the text. So all that changes can be done, and that changes will be visible through the secondary window. So secondary window will be probably smaller than the primary window, and secondary window will always not be visible on the primary window. Whenever it is in use or whenever the user needs to use it, then they go for the secondary window. In secondary window, once again, there are two types. One is dependent secondary window. You can see here, one is dependent secondary window and one is independent secondary window. So dependent secondary window is one common type. It will be always displayed from the command on the interface of its primary window, which can be movable and which can be scrollable. So as I said, whenever you select the font properties, I mean, whenever you want to change the font style, font color, and you want to adjust the paragraph size and all, it will open a window that can be adjustable and that can be movable. All that we come under dependent secondary window. Whereas independent secondary window is, it's like you cannot do any changes in that secondary window. You can just view the details in that secondary window. That is called independent secondary window. For example, there are many applications which will be present on your laptop, and in that, whenever you right click on that and you go for properties, okay, you right click on that and you go for properties, it will just display the properties of that particular application. So that is called independent secondary window. Okay, it is independent of the primary window, which means even though you have not opened any primary windows, you just right click on that application and you go for the properties, it will open one more window that is called secondary window, and that secondary window is independent of the primary window. So when you go for secondary windows, there are two types. One is dependent secondary window and one is independent secondary window. So dependent secondary window is, it should be always in command with the primary window, which means there will be one application which you are using, and in that the user demands that secondary window to open. So you right click on that and you can go for font properties and you can do any changes there. Okay. Whereas in case of independent secondary window, there will be many applications which will be installed in your laptops, and when you go for that application, right click on that, you will get properties. So one